a more better and developed version of Sifuna?
If you call me here, that's not that I have potential.
I want to hear it from your mouth because I know that.
I believe I have special abilities that can be different from Sifuna. And I also have other abilities that can be better than Sifuna.
That's why I'm improved.
Yes, I'm improved. Of course, I'm improved better than Sifuna because about the things that we share, and the things that I think that I can do different. Very different. Yes.
I am, I look at you and I see that, and that's why I've asked you that question. In the next 10 years, where do you think you shall be?
Well, sometimes it is very bad to predict what you want to be happen. It's not good to say the next 10 years I'll be the person.
No,
The next 10 years I'll be the person.
I'm disagreeing with that. Okay,
I don't say
ask me why.
why.
If I don't predict myself, who shall? You want me to predict that I shall be in the Mitaro drinking because I am so learned? Because I am this, how do you want me to predict badly?
But you know the most important thing is what you say to yourself, not what you see. If today I believe that in the next 2 years, in the next 4 years, I'll be the next governor, I've already believed in my own mind. Every day I wake up myself as a governor. That is manifestation to my own self-consciousness. But to other people, I don't need to tell you. Not even in general.
Where are you raised?
Different places. I was raised in Samburu for 13 years, and CIR for a couple of years, and also Kisumu. But Kisumu is my home. I am Jakano.
You are Jakano. A real Jakano.
Kano is where we are from the same, we are neighbors with Nikuna. We are from the same place.
Now we understand where this breed is coming. Which says that is supposed to be said.
Yeah, so that is my home.
There's something I want to ask you. I don't know whether we are in that level. We are on, eh?
Yes, we are.
When you talk about an inquest, actually, can I tell you, capture all those. I love it raw. I love it. There's no pretense. I don't like pretense like we are living.
I also don't like pretense. I like talking from the top of my head. You gave me questions and I didn't even look at them, so I don't even know which questions you asked me.
That's why I'm like, I said when they told me that we are going to bring you a young lawyer in town, I went back to you. And I've been seeing you.
That's amazing.
Yeah, you're amazing.
It's good, it's good. You know one thing about me? I appreciate strangers more than even my friends. So even if somebody tells me, hey, Adrian, I want you to do this.
Wow.
Because a stranger can see something that your friend who's used to you cannot see. That has always been my mantra. So sometimes you get people randomly calling me and telling me, so, but I love you to do this and that. Please can you come?
Yeah.
And they think that I would refuse, and I tell them, because there are so many times people have done the same thing and they've called me. And it has been very valuable from just that experience.
It's also bringing out the best in you.
Of course.
Have you ever done something about an inquest? What do you understand about an inquest?
Not really do something. Okay, I've worked in law firms. I've started working in law firms ever since I was in university. Very good exposure. But the tipping point was in second year when I did a lot of criminal justice in one of the law firms that I used to work for. So part of the closest I've done to an actual inquest. You know, inquests, first of all, inquests are very weighty matters, especially with capital offenses. That is when they require inquests. That we have to ascertain certain circumstances, certain things that unfolded for us to decide to proceed with this case. Otherwise, if we do not ascertain these things right now and we decide to go forward with this case, it will be very detrimental, number one, to the victim and also to the accused person. So that is the reason why the court must first do an inquest before even starting even a miscellaneous application.
Can I ask?
So,
can inquest jail you? Can the judge look at this case?
An inquest can never jail you.
Can
An inquest can never jail you. An inquest prepares you for the case. It is an inquiry. Let me give you an example where you've heard of a commission of inquiry, right?
Yes.
Look at the commission of inquiry for somebody who was killed, like Dr. Robert Oluoch. Number one, there are allegations, but you cannot ascertain what it is. So there is that executive power that before going to court, before arresting the cabinet secretaries, because we know there can be interference and a lot of things with the daily assignment of the government of working, will not go ahead to arrest him. We'll make a commission of inquiry that will get experts to ascertain believable or reasonable truth before we proceed to court. So a commission of inquiry is formed, they investigate, and they give recommendations. Even an inquest does not give substantial orders. It only gives recommendations. The most important one, to the prosecutor. Number two, to the court. And also to the victim. So that recommendation is that this evidence is very clear enough. We feel like the prosecution should proceed in this case. The court will give it back. So the prosecutor cannot also wake up and one day say that we are not proceeding with this case, when the inquest itself had already shown substantial evidence like CCTVs, forensics and everything.
Wow.
See?
Yeah.
So the court is already seeing it. So we know, let me also teach people that the people who hold the power to withdraw and institute charges is the prosecution. If the prosecution wakes up today and say, we're not proceeding in this case because we don't have enough evidence, they have the power to withdraw. But it is subject to justification by the court. So the moment you place a court in an inquest that is seeing everything that is happening, it gives the power the court to refuse the prosecution from stopping a case. That is why inquests are very important, especially for the victims. So if, let's say, something like Rex Masai today, the prosecution says, we are not proceeding with the case to court. But come on, during the inquest, we have seen that there are certain dawning CCTV footages. What is the reason you're not proceeding in this case? So it becomes even harder for the prosecution to refuse to proceed with the case. Despite the fact they were saying there was no evidence, but now the evidence is glaring and it's shown. So after the inquest, now you get to the substantial part.
Wow. What you, because now the court has refused, so the justice has been denied.
If the court has refused, what has it refused?
To listen to the inquest, because the prosecutor feels that he will not listen to this case. So are we supposed to go to the next one, we go home and sleep, and you say that God will serve us justice, and we're expecting the court to give us the justice?
No, I don't think a court can refuse to listen to an inquest. Okay, number one, we have to agree that, things such as inquests are, number one, they're not highly guided by law.
Especially in murder cases.
Yes, like a trial.
And don't forget that the victim we are discussing at inquest is already under the soil.
Yes, but that is, for people who, the problem with victimization, for us, it doesn't touch us as lawyers, because that is what we deal with every day. It's a murder case. Somebody is on this side.
I am not going to inquire more. Let's talk about cyberbullying. There's a very the law says that if you're found guilty of the cyberbullying and everything else, you can be jailed for over 20 years, or you can be penalized over 10 years.
Yeah.
It's very vocal in Kenya, which is not enacted, which people take it for granted. I remember back, there is somebody who was a public figure, I don't remember what is his name. I can't forget who was in radio. Is it Radio Jambo or Radio Maisha? And somebody has told me he's positive and positive and positive, and he stood before the court and he said, I am not. They had to sit down and say... And
they sued for defamation because of that allegation. They had to test, they had to do a lot of things. And I bet, it's that one, I bet the person for false allegation against the,
I don't think they won. They went back to the bench and apologized and said, can we sort this out of the court?
Out of court settlement.
I also think being in medical world, you are not supposed to come and expose my medical status and when it comes to HIV and AIDS. As much as I am HIV positive, I can even stand before the court and say, I will not disclose my status, and you're not supposed to talk about my HIV status to the whole world because of one, victimization. And yes.
And stigmatization.
Yes, and stigmatization.
That comes with that kind of.
How do you go about it, especially in Kenya, about the cyberbullying and victimization and all those?
One thing I'll tell you, if you have a case for cyberbullying, the chances of us losing that case in court is always 90%. Because it is very difficult to put specific legal threshold for you to jail someone because of cyberbullying.
About text messages.
We had something that was called criminal defamation a long time before it was repealed or termed as unconstitutional. That if today you said something defamatory towards somebody, you could be arrested and that could be a criminal case. But the court refused and said anything to do with defamation cannot be termed as a criminal case. That is a civil matter. That it does not make sense to the court to jail someone for even 5 years just because they made a false allegation or a defamatory or abusive remark towards someone.
And why is it taken to the criminal court?
It cannot be taken to the criminal court. That is what the court actually put a lock on. So what happened, our legislators wanted to bring it back through the aspect of cyber intimidation or cyberbullying. It was done by the Computers and Misuse Act. That was very controversial for about last year in 2025. So what happens is they reintroduced it through the aspect of cyberbullying. That if today you were to use a device or you were to make a pronouncement somewhere that affected another person, using that device, it will be termed as using a device, for an illegal purpose. So they found a way of reintroducing it through criminal process. That is why we are seeing people like, what is this girl's famous girl, Aoko?
Yes.
Being arrested. Why? Because of that particular crime, Computer Misuse and Cyber Crimes Act. That is what introduced it. But the problem with the cyberbullying is this. You have to tentatively prove before the court that the words that were made by someone else actually caused harm. And that is where the problem comes. If I say Kasongo today and I'm arrested, I can easily plead with the court that whatever I meant did not mean to harm, the reputation of this person. Like, this is what I intended. You see? Like it was just a reference to a tax collector and he did this. Are you seeing the difference? So there is a way you can twist your intention for the words that you made towards a person. So the only way we get a good chance of winning such kind of a case is when the statements or the bullying statements are very direct. Very, very direct. It has to be very direct. That is the only time we're ever winning such kind of cases.
Maybe direct to you through messages?
Not direct through messages.
Like reference. You are,
Reference, like you are this. You are this. It has to be that way. If I say something like, you are the worst human being, that is not a very direct statement.
Because you have not mentioned me.
Yeah. And in fact, I've just mentioned an issue to do with character. But if I was to say something like, let's say something like, you kill people. I know you kill people, in fact, you eat people inside your home. You see something like that? It has a certain weight against someone. It's very direct to specific things. You've already said this person is a cannibal. So the moment the court sees such kind of circumstances, they believe that it is. But if you just make a general inference or references that can be treated as jokes, sarcasm, political banter, friendly banter, you cannot plead cyberbullying. It's very difficult. But also, despite the fact that you plead it, it must show the harm that this person can have. It
might even be emotional damage.
That's emotional damage, yes.
It can be even mental or anything. You cannot come and call me a killer and I'm a very serious business person and I'm in medical world. There's nobody who shall be able to come in my hospital, Bana.
So for that, that is defamation. I want you to distinguish
Cyberbullying and defamation.
Very different.
Can we go? Can you touch?
Very different.
Can you touch kidogo on defamation?
Defamation, there is three thresholds.
One.
Number one, it has to be publicized to a third party. If I say today you're a killer, and I just tell you you're a killer, and I don't publicize to a third party, that is not defamation. But if I take my WhatsApp and say, Alice is a killer, or I tell her, Alice is a killer, that is enough publication. But publication nowadays is broad, newspaper, TV, podcasts, any, like we're sitting here right now, is publicized.
Then we say
That is publicization. Number two, it must refer to that specific individual. If I today were to say this is a bad person, but the court does not know whom you mentioned, the court would say that's not information. Show us specifically it was intended for this person. That's why I might say something like a nickname for a politician, but I will just plead I did not intend for her. Are you saying it? That's what people coin using different words.
Yes.
Then number three, it must be seen to cause harm to that person. How do we see that? Number one, we look at the reputation of that individual, especially defamation. That's why defamation was a very important principle, because one thing we wanted to protect was reputation. Number one, harm, we say that this person is a practicing advocate, that his name and his reputation is what is important for him to be getting clients, getting money, paying his rent, and everything in life. So the moment this person said that our advocate is a con man, it made other clients be wary of him, and now he's not getting work. See, that is something we just assume. The court will not tell us, show us where he missed the work. So number three, it must be seen to cause harm to that individual. And that harm that we talk about is always reputation.
What does the law say about defamation?
We have the
Kenyan law.
We have the Defamation Act. So the most important thing with defamation, our Defamation Act provides for the threshold when it comes to defamation. Those three defamations that I've mentioned, it is specifically written in that particular act. So the most important one, I'll tell you this one. Number one, you cannot win a defamation case without a reputation.
So you've got to have a
There was one case that made headlines on X where the judge told the person, you have no reputation.
Oh! Okay, you have a reputation, so you can win.
I go and tell the court that I have 100,000 followers and I make money from content creation. That is my reputation. So the moment you do this, my audience does not want to engage with me anymore. That is a reputation. You say, I'm a professional in this particular field. That is my reputation. I am a politician who's seeking to vie in 2027, but this person has called me corrupt without evidence. That is my reputation. But if you today are a homeless person, nobody knows you, you are not employed, you have no particular reputation, but you're going to court and telling them that this person passed across the street and told another person that I'm a thief. The court will ask you, okay, plead to us your reputation so that we can see.
Wow, I've learned something today. Actually, I didn't know that one. And you've really passionate about law.
You should know that. In fact, let me tell you, when we are writing a plaint for defamation, a plaint is not a document that pleads the legal issues. We always insist on talking about the accolades of the person. We say, Adrian Oluoch went to a master's in law in Harvard. He did this. He runs a successful company with this. He has so many clients of about 100 and so.
Are you allowed to become a friend of someone in court?
Depends on, we are all friends of the court.
I have a case of defamation. I think I should hire you for that.
No, you dealt with a lot.
I know because you're not admitted to the bar.
No, but I work. What do you mean?
No, I will give you that.
Every day.
Now let's get into business. I am in medical world. That's what I learned.
Oh, what is?
Nairobi Outpatient Hospital.
Limited. Oh.
Yes.
I'm hearing that for the first time.
Really? Oh.
Maybe I don't think so.
You don't.
Maybe I'm not waiting for.
It's because you don't have an interest. And the way I make noise on social media, especially on TikTok, I'm a noise maker, serious one.
Maybe.
Maybe you've passed and I'm like,
the algorithm of social of TikTok is Like there's someone who's just popular, but you don't even know their name, but you still.
Can I tell you something?
Mm.
I was told by my team today in the morning that
Mm.
you shall see this law. And Vinny brings your phone and like I know this guy, but I listened to. So I went into a book and I'm like, oh, okay,
It's
interesting.
It's the same for me. I see a lot of people.
Yeah, because me, I've seen you.
Mm.
Actually, I have seen you. And that's why when I see you this young, I'm like, okay, I'm dealing with young people. Let's talk about in business.
Mm.
But I'm HR by profession.
Oh, that's amazing.
But I'm in medical. But now, don't forget I've hired professions, surgeons and all those. For instance, I've done the due diligence. I'm not the one who licensed them, it's the government. So they're truly entitled to the patient whom I bring in me because my work is to market and make sure the patients are well treated and everything. But now when I get to theater, neighborhood, or anything in the hands of the doctor, one makes a particular mistake. So why I am, and this is where my question. I am, but why does the why does the government, the KMPDC, is licensing these doctors? Why is this the nurse council is licensing this nurse? Why is it the midwife have been licensed? And don't forget, I'm also licensed to operate this business. Why would you not become carriers of our own problems?
Liability is very different.
I don't want to
There
hear
is
that.
company liability and there is also professional liability. If today I'm presented with a medical negligence case against a particular doctor in a hospital, number one, we know that that hospital is not just an hospital. Despite the fact that it's a social service, it is still a business. It is still a company. So there is company legal liability. That if anything happens to a customer, I'll call the patient a customer, that company is still legally liable, just as any other company like Cyberbullying. So the person will be suing is the hospital.
No, they don't.
So that the profits that the hospital are getting is what is supposed to be covering for that liability. So that the hospital is more careful in terms of superseding or supervising the people who are under that hospital. But when you're fighting that medical negligence, you file for that legal claim against the hospital. And number two, you also file for a claim at the professional board. You file for that legal claim against the hospital. And number two, we also file for a claim at the professional body of that individual. Now the Kenya Medical KMPDC, yes. We file it there. Why do we file it there? It is because of professional liability and professional conduct. In fact, the reason why we go to that body, sometimes it's not the issue of compensation. It is the issue of conduct when it becomes so professional. That is why the thing that we seek for is suspension of license as the most important thing. There may be recommendations, there may be remedies, but that is the most important.
If you are my lawyer of this Nairobi arbitration, and you're supposed to protect that license, what are you supposed to do?
You know, the
hard question.
You know, it's not hard. It is just that it is complex in a way. Now we are talking about things that evade liability, things that evade, taxes or all these things. Number one, I might not give you a way to prevent misconduct by a doctor. I can only give you a way to prevent that in case you have liability, that company does not fall down.
Most of the time that you find the company is falling down because of the doctor who is licensed by the government. Whom the government, I don't know whether you are getting my point.
Do you know?
Whom the government has given me to work with.
And you have a legal obligation to make sure that that person acts in the best interest.
So why would I go down because of somebody that the government has given me?
Do you know, you've reminded me of a concept called, holding companies?
Yes.
Do you have a holding company for your trade?
Yes, I do.
All fitted?
Yes, all fitted.
If your company falls in there, what happens?
It's a company that falls down, not the owner.
Not the owner. Then you register another one.
I register.
You register another one. Those are the things that protect you from liability that will make you crown.
Probably change
as a
names. Probably do something else.
Something else. But one thing we'll never prevent is the act of a professional. I'll never lie to you.
Going back into the business, what are some of the things that you'll advise investors as the worst mistake that people don't look at when they're signing contract or when they're starting up a business? Financially, especially signing for a loan, contracts, all those that they don't look at. Yes.
I like indemnity clauses in contracts so much, because part of corporate law that I've handled, most people don't really know how important indemnity clauses are. You know, an indemnity clause is that these are the things you're afraid of, right? The risk that if this happens, that happens. So you want to shift this risk to a third party. So you accept an indemnity clause, but it is just as general as most people can interpret as far as they want. So you say that, you know, indemnify, okay, indemnify, we accept it. So what I always tell people, when it comes to indemnity clauses, before you sign it, or before you draft your own, make sure it is very particular to the risks that you want, the particulars of the risk. How does it extend up to particular things? Is it the risk of, you know, money? What is that particular thing? The problem is that some people want to generalize it so much, such that in case anything happens, so, you know why I remember also that? Because there are a lot of times you get the contract and you tell the person, can tell them to specify the risks with them. Just tell them to specify.
Sometimes you don't want to specify on the risk because I'm too hungry for the contract. I'm too hungry for the money. And the banks, when you're getting the facilities from the bank, what are some of the things that you're supposed to look at in the clauses?
Facilities from the bank in terms of?
Loans, big loans, mortgages. Actually, a business does not get, it's like the financial loan to boost the business. And I'm talking about a startup, not a big hold company.
So what you're supposed to be looking at?
Yes, the risk. I'm looking at the risk.
Okay, you know, it depends with the startup. Number one, I don't think, you know, if you're saying risk, number one, you're talking about a bank funding a startup. Listen, do you think there is why do bank fund startups?
I don't want to use that word, but it's
good. What? In Kenya, rarely there is no bank that funds startups. Very rare. In fact, the only reason why they fund startups is because it is, you know, an idea that they're willing to use, but the idea is still good to proceed with. The reason why startups don't get funding mostly from the banks, and they get it from things such as hedge fund or you know, these corporate entities of private investors, is because these are people who are willing to come for that. Bank is always about security, nothing else. So whenever you have a startup or somewhere, you cannot typically walk to a bank and tell them to finance. There is something that they will force you to need to, that they're willing to lose for these particular startups. If that was easy. So I would not understand what would the bank were.
So you're talking about that the government, the bank look at where they will lose or where they will not lose.
Where they will not lose, yes. But if it's a startup is always a company. Because what is a startup? A startup.
If I come up like now, if I like now, one of my employees probably is the lump sum. They have security and they give it to the bank. Do you think the bank will not wait? Yes.
They would. Absolutely.
They will. Yes.
But what are you doing? You're introducing the issue of security, right?
Yeah.
Then if today say I have a startup, then I may tell the bank, you know what, I have a house. But the reason why I want to get this loan is because I have a very successful startup that can gain money. But in case the startup does not become successful, I want you to take my house. Tell me which bank would you please.
Siwezi kataa.
They will take it very quickly.
Siwezi kataa.
The situation of Tuju.
Yes. Of course.
Yes. Tuju had a project and we told them, bank, I have this project and I want it. But because this project requires a lot of money, I also have it.
So,
but the project has not worked out. What happens with the bank?
The bank was processing and they did. There's another one, we talked, the Glee Hotel. Yes, Wambui. But I heard they came to a conclusion whereby They had to sit down between the bank. That is what I love about big business. They had to sit down between the bank and her. So they divided. But the restaurant was taken by the bank, and I asked, she had to take the rooms or something. They had to come to a consensus.
Yeah, it came. I saw something about
yes,
it.
They went in
possession, and a lot of things. She took a loan. I didn't quite follow it, but that is the good thing when it comes to relationships with banks and customers.
Yeah,
You can always negotiate.
It's also depend with the level you are at in business. So having a conversation is very important.
Conversation, influence, and all that is important.
Yes, and what you're giving the bank. The last one, because I think we have had almost 40 minutes or 30 minutes. I don't know. You're not. Yeah?
35 minutes.
Imagine. You're so passionate. I can tell you're so passionate about.
It's just about.
Let's talk about will. Let's talk about whereby we've seen that you have done a will, I've gone, and my children are challenging me. Would you advise a scenario whereby, whether either a trustee or whereby, that when I do my will, or how is it supposed to be done, that there's nobody who is going to challenge this will? Because even the law allows, even when you are dead, that somebody can be able to challenge that will. So can you advise us another way that we can be able to change, whereby I'm leaving my business to some people and nobody shall be able to challenge? Yes.
This is how the process works. Number one, a will is the word that exists. Yes. And the principle is that the word of the deceased is what must be followed. And the only thing that can ever supersede the word of the deceased is the law. So when you're drafting a will, number one, if the deceased says that I want this will not to be contested, that is his word. But that non-contestation must not be in conflict with the law. Because remember, of succession, the law of succession always provides that there are people, no matter what happens, whether there is a will or no will, they must benefit from the estate of the deceased person, the wife and the children. That if there is any will that is written today, and a child is not included or a wife is not included, that will is deemed as invalid, or that will has to be contested for somebody. So yes, you can say, this is my word, I want this to be distributed in this percentage, but it must be inclusive of what the law of succession provides. So while we are drafting that will, I Number one, I take the law of succession act, and I look and I say, the law of succession act provides that number one, the children come first, the wife, and if they are not there, there is any other relative has to be given. Any person who was living under the roof of the deceased person as a child or being provided for has to be included. So I check all these things and I make sure it must be included in the will so that my will does not become invalid. So after I comply with everything under the Law of Succession Act, I now say that this will cannot be contested. That is why part of the things that we really appreciated the will of Didi Gachagua is not the non-contestation, it's the inclusivity. 5%, 4%, 3%, 2%, 1%, 2%, 1%, 2%, 2%. Everyone, 30 beneficiaries benefited from it.
So there was nobody. But
so
now,
there was so much inclusivity that it was in compliance with the law. So even the non-contestation cannot be held invalid at all.
But now, the what is his name? Chris Kirubi.
Yes.
Do you know one of the child who was born out of but she had her own share, but she contested against that will, and she was rewarded by the court.
Yes, because a will is the final say. But like I told you, everything must be in compliance with the law. Nothing comes above the law. That is the problem that we're having. So number one, how do we contest our will? There can be certain factors. Number one is fraudulent wills. That is why the first thing I want to say was that this will was written with the coercion of Gachagua, that he forced this person and then made a false claim and they changed the will. You see, that is a fraudulent act. You misrepresented the word of the person who's at the deathbed. So they said that maybe he wanted this percentage, but they went ahead and changed it, and maybe signed it. So that is fraud. Another thing is incapacity of the person who's writing the will. So whenever a person has to write a will, a person cannot write a will in ICU. Or when they're mad today. Their mental capacity must be at the rightmost state. So if today they write a will and they say Adrian Oluoch gets 56%, but later after it's done, you realize that this person was suffering from maybe a mental illness during writing that will, or a medical incapacity, that will can be contested. If today we realize that there is a will that did not include a child who was born out of wedlock, because a baby mama, and we do a DNA, we realize, okay, this is a new child that we don't even know about, the will has to be contested. You see? So the issue of the will, yes, it is the final word of the person, but it must be in compliance with the law.
How we don't have power of our own things when we die.
It is the law that comes first.
I know. Then lastly, when we're growing and we're in business, and sometimes we find ourselves working with family members. How do you bind them by the law?
How do you bind them?
By the law. For probably don't go back.
It depends. Let's say you indulge. Let me think of a scenario what you're trying to arrive at. Let's say you are involved in a family business operation. Number one, you can.
And they have seen you grow, and they are there, not as partner, but members of the family, but I've been there with you too. But don't forget, they are not partners.
They're not partners. And they want an entitlement of what you have
Of
built.
course, it's family.
They don't have.
No, hold on. I would want you to remember the case of another. Was it the judge who died?
Yeah, the judge. Oh my God, I met the judge.
Yes, and he left the will to his small brother.
And the brothers contested the will.
Is it the brother or the parents?
I believe it is the brother. He left the brother or the parents.
The parents, they are the one who contested.
Contested.
Yes.
I know. And you see,
And that is still in court, it has not been decided.
yes, it has not been decided. But you know one thing about contestation is that sometimes we solely don't just contest because we have a legal right.
Is it entitlement?
Exactly.
Oh, sorry.
And I'll tell you one thing. Most people come to lawyers and say that here's a mistake, here's a will. A lawyer will give you a reason.
Of course,
Without
because he
any
wants
legal
money.
right. And that is the problem we are having with succession. You find that there is a law of succession that provides this is the hierarchy for you to divide this estate. You cannot give this child out. And you know very well you don't have any interest, even as a grandfather in this, but you decide to go to court. And you know the court will listen.
But do parents have the right to contest? The parents, they do.
They do have a right to contest.
Why?
A lot of reasons. Dependency.
Okay.
Number two, there might be other families who are not there, and they're the ones who
But
are
it's
there.
no money.
No, it is your money. But remember, if there are no clear instructions, the law must forward your money to
But
someone.
sometimes you think because you've done law is fair.
Because you people underestimate how powerful the law is.
It's not underestimated, and that is why we are having this desk today.
You know? But we have the law so that we can control human conduct.
You know, sometimes I look at the law and cap it like Bible. The way a pastor will sign in front of the church and decide to preach according to what he feels like. That is the way the lawyer will go and contest in court.
Can I tell you another philosophy about the law? The law is just a structure by the elites.
A structure by?
Elites, the
Okay.
rich elites of the world,
Yeah.
to control the world and the poor. Because the only people who follow the law are the poor. And the only people who are afraid of the law is the poor. And if you think that people cannot get away with the law,
I don't want to comment about that because it's true. And the only person who suffers, but now when you're talking about that, people who are only affected by the law are the poor. Where are we between you and me and Obando? Where are you between you and me? And that person who was. Where are you between you and me and Wejito?
Let's say somebody who's not poor, somebody who's not wealthy. You can never be anywhere in between.
You talk about
say that you are
riches.
an elite, wealthy person.
I will not talk about it because for me, Obando is not supposed to be behind bars. For me,
And you might not see him again.
no, hold on. For me, you're talking about Wejito, a very strong personnel. It's also behind the bars. Because we'll have so many people.
That is when you realize.
We also had our own Raila Odinga who was wealthy and was behind the bar for many years.
That is when you realize. You don't look at them, look at the people.
Power.
So tell me one day, if you'd be able to put Canada.
Are you mad? Are you mad?
That is real oligarchy.
Are you mad?
You can't fathom. Even people cannot fathom.
Something I will say, this will be our last one. We had one of our politicians who shot high because he was a licensed gun holder. And he did the unformed, the unjustified, the
Don't tell me
unthinkable.
it's that person. Which person?
I don't want to mention.
Because he might be my friend.
He is my friend.
Who? The governor.
Yeah.
What does justice mean?
Justice is when wrong is behind the bar and when rights are justified. Let's look at the Alcarao.
That person was lying, right?
Let's look at the investigation that were done by the NTV journalists.
But you also,
And everything was put in the limelight.
but
Those
you
people
also
are
have
still
the
here.
philosophy that justice is always about the victim. How the victim feels about the entire case. So if today you shot someone, the victim, and the victim feels that, no, I don't want to have reasons. I've had enough reasons to let this go. Why would you interfere with that?
I will conclude my own, and you conclude is yours. There's no justice for the poor.
Never.
Law is about entitlement and who is who, and for the rich. What's your take?
My take is that that might be your take. But at the end of the day, the only thing that is above the law is always the will, the collective. That is why the law might be for undermining poor people. But the moment poor people collectively rise up against that law, that they must power.
Do you think that lawyers are more justified than us? Do you think these people, they live in their own world?
I don't understand.
Cases.
That is true.
That is,
But at the end of the day, I'm going to be starting a flight company.